and let us all do we can to build a better future. Well, with that being said, let's get started with our first segment of the day. So, as it stands right now, we covered this yesterday where there's a possibility of Canadian Prime Minister Justin Trudeau considering about using emergency powers. As it happened today, he is now implementing his emergency powers.
So wait, is it? Let me guess. It's to there's a terrible tsunami happened in Canada, and they're trying to make sure they have the ability to deal with it. That's what it is.
Incorrect.
There's a massive moose avalanche, and it's blocked a lot of roads, and they can't get supplies to some town, and they need to block it to get those supplies in.
Yeah, you would have been on the mark, but not this time.
There's a wine and cheese shortage in Quebec.
Nope.
Let me think. What other really good reason? It's a humanitarian crisis, and he wants to make. Well, what could it be then?
It's against the protesters, also known as the truckers, who are right now blocking roads because they are upset with the current policies and mandates that are being implemented by the Canadian government.
He's going after protesters. That's why he's enacting it. I understand.
And I have to say this before we play the video. When you have to enact emergency powers on protesters, it should raise some red flags and sound the alarms, because if they could do this to one group of protesters, this can be then click, copy, and paste all across the world so that when other protesters hold events or rallies or want to call out government corruption or abuse of power, it can be implemented on all. So right now, these are some very interesting times we're living in, and these are also some times where we need to be kind of concerned about how this will all play out. Let's play this video of the Canadian Prime Minister addressing his use of the emergency powers.
After discussing with Cabinet and Caucus, after consultation with premiers from all provinces and territories, after speaking with opposition leaders, the federal government has invoked the Emergencies Act to supplement provincial and territorial capacity to address the blockades and occupations. I want to be very clear. The scope of these measures will be time-limited, geographically targeted, as well as reasonable and proportionate to the threats they are meant to address. The Emergencies Act will be used to strengthen and support law enforcement agencies at all levels across the country. This is about keeping Canadians safe, protecting people's jobs, and restoring confidence in our institutions.
Let's pause it here for one quick second.
By the way, I can't think of a better way to instill confidence than to attack protesters. That's a way to do it.
Now, again, the way you're describing, is describing the situation, it would almost sound like it's Mad Max. The roads are run amok with bandits. The cities are on fire. There's mass hysteria, chaos all over, when in fact, the exact opposite is taking place. Now, whatever your opinion is on the truckers and their protests, the point is of every protest is to get the attention of the government and address a concern of the people. And this has a lot of support, not only in the country of Canada, but worldwide. The eyes of the world are on Canada right now and what these protesters are doing. This is how you successfully use a protest. You got to get attention, and you have to use political leverage, power of the people to obviously get your point across. Now, the thing is, last I checked, the roads are not run amok with bandits. The cities are not on fire. This act of using emergency powers should be very concerning to us all. Let's play the rest of the video, because again, if Canada's right now doing this, and as I'm seeing in the chat here as well, other countries have done this or could potentially do this to other protests like this, however which way these protests might be. So there we go. Let's play the rest of it.
Here's how the measures we're taking today will help get the situation under control. The police will be given more tools to restore order in places where public assemblies can constitute illegal.
Hey, can you remind me what gang members call guns? Right, it's also tools. Isn't that interesting?
Yeah,
they use the same language.
You're talking about body armor? What else? Because the thing is,
he's talking about the tools. They're getting the tools.
Not like a hammer or a wrench or screwdriver.
No, I don't think the police are. They probably have those.
Okay. All right.
No building.
All right. Let's play the rest of this.
and dangerous activities, such as blockades and occupations as seen in Ottawa, the Ambassador Bridge, and elsewhere. These tools include strengthening their ability to impose fines or imprisonment. The government will designate, secure, and protect places and infrastructure that are critical to our economy and people's jobs, including border crossings and airports. We cannot and will not allow illegal and dangerous activities to continue. The Emergencies Act will also allow the government.
So is Canada now declaring trucks with active brakes dangerous?
Who even knows that? Because here's the situation. They are talking about using more force on the people. That's what they're talking about right now, using more force and protecting key areas of the economy. That's what they're talking about doing. Let's play the rest of it.
The government will designate, secure, and protect places and infrastructure that are critical to our economy and people's jobs, including border crossings and airports. We cannot and will not allow illegal and dangerous activities to continue. The Emergencies Act will also allow the government to make sure essential services are rendered, for example, in order to tow vehicles blocking roads. In addition, financial institutions will be authorized or directed to render essential services to help address the situation, including by regulating and prohibiting the use of property to fund or support illegal blockades.
So pause it.
Finally,
I love how he threw that. He's like, oh, we're gonna stop people's, we're gonna protect the free expression and free commerce by shutting down free expression and free commerce.
will enable the RCMP to enforce municipal bylaws and provincial offences where required. This is what the Emergencies Act does. Let me be equally clear about what it does not do. We're not using the Emergencies Act to call in the military. We're not suspending fundamental rights or overriding the Charter of Rights and Freedoms. We are not limiting.
Like, I'm not killing the guy. Killing the guy's illegal. I am legally dismantling his body so that he no longer is able to breathe. It's completely different.
Disregard the plastic bag over his head. It's
no, that's fine. That is to make sure that no one can take pictures of him. We're trying to protect his identity.
Exactly. The doublespeak right here.
People's freedom of speech. We are not limiting freedom of peaceful assembly. We are not preventing people from exercising their right to protest legally.
Legally, that's the word he's like, haha.
The principles, values, and institutions that keep all Canadians free.
Okay. Now, notice Prime Minister being calm, cool, and collective, talking about, of course, what these emergency powers will do. I want to pull up this short 43-second video. What's going to happen to anyone that donates to any of the protesters or any groups that do donate to protests? Because, you know, we talk about freezing assets. Let's play this video.
With anyone involved in the illegal blockades and report to the RCMP or CSIS. As of today, a bank or other financial service provider will be able to immediately freeze or suspend an account without a court order. In doing so, they will be protected against civil liability for actions taken in good faith. Federal government institutions will have a new broad authority to share relevant information with banks and other financial service providers to ensure their relationships with anyone involved in the illegal blockades and report to the RCMP or CSIS. As of today, a bank or other financial service provider will be able to immediately freeze or suspend an account without a court order. In doing so, they will be protected against civil liability for actions taken in good faith. Federal government institutions will have a new broad authority to share relevant information with banks and other financial service providers to ensure their relationship.
Oh, obviously,
We're super peaceful and we're doing everything to help everyone. Except if you disagree with us, then we're shutting down your bank account, arresting you, increasing police action that can be taken against you, and we're regulating your bank accounts.
So I want to pull up this article from RT. I want to just at least acknowledge it and what's happening. So the Canadian Civil Liberties Association has responded to Prime Minister Justin Trudeau's invocation of the Emergencies Act to combat the Freedom Convoy, saying on Tuesday they are concerned by how the government is dealing with anti-mandate protesters across the country. According to the civil rights group, the high and clear standard for using the Emergencies Act has not been met. However, Trudeau, Canadian Prime Minister, announced this week that he was using the authority to expand the resources and scope of law enforcement to deal with the blockades which the protesting truckers and their supporters created at border points and in major cities. Now, again, if you're trying to do a protest, you want to get people's attention. You have to get people's attention in any which way. And that means making a statement and using your voice and your concerns and addressing them. And it's getting plenty of media attention. However, again, what I think a lot of people are forgetting is that since 2020, since the lockdowns, and I know every country handled it differently. The United States, in my opinion, did a piss poor job. Other countries, I would say, did better. But again, neither here nor there. The point is, this pandemic, these lockdowns have impacted people worldwide. This isn't just an American issue.
I love that they're acting like, hey, this is the first time in the last, 2 years, anyone's life has been affected by anything,
Yes.
commercial or otherwise. Not to Canada's credit, they did give people $2,000 a month.
As a UBI, but let's be
That's
clear here.
Still in effect.
Let's be clear here, though. The whole world was caught unprepared. Now, of course, the United States, worst of them all. But again, no one really, I think, in their right mind, expected a pandemic or anything happening of that nature.
Yeah.
And the whole world was ill prepared. We were. It's a fact. But the point is, there is a breaking point, and people's lives do have to come back to normal. And we're gonna have to learn to live with this pandemic, just like all the other diseases and horrible ailments that are out there in the world. We just are gonna have to learn to live with it. Unfortunately, I hate being that person. So I just want to read just two tweets from the article right here from RT America, from the Canadian Civil Liberties Association. The Emergencies Act can only be invoked when a situation seriously threatens the ability of the government of Canada to preserve the sovereignty, security, and territorial integrity of Canada, and when the situation cannot be effectively dealt with under any other law of Canada. Governments regularly deal with difficult situations and do so using powers granted to them by democratically elected representatives. Emergency legislation should not be normalized. It threatens our democracy and our civil liberties. Now, again, no one's invading Canada. The United States is not invading Canada. This isn't Fallout, okay? Canada is not having a civil war.
There'd be some trucks that aren't moving.
Yes, that's it. This is getting out of hand. And so, to which I have to say, all the best, and please be safe out there to the protesters who are there. Look out for each other. That's all I can offer, just words. Please be careful, but also know your rights, especially in the Canadian court system, and just take care of each other. But I do want to pull up this next video, but real quick, I know you have a
I want to
comment.
read this chat I just saw from, I might have passed by it, but it's right, from Miguel H. No one has the right to shut down the economy except the government. I mean, it's like, we've been talking about, we, as you guys know, we early on tried to talk about the Great Sickness quite a bit, and every time we did, YouTube literally curb stomped our channel, most notably shadow banning it for 6 months. Basically, we've never recovered from that original thing. So obviously, we've been taught by YouTube to not talk about this, so we have our ways to do it. But isn't it funny that they're probably going to be killing some people to keep them healthy?
Yeah. So here's the thing. I know there's a lot of people focusing on what's happening in Canada, but there are anti-mandate protests that are happening all across the world. I want to bring up one example in New Zealand. Let's play that video. So, my honest opinion, this is not going to go away. And the governments all across the world are going to have to listen to the people. There is a breaking point. Look, I understand everyone's concerned about this pandemic. I get it. But there does come a point to where enough is enough, and we're going to have to go back to a normal.
At some point, this was bound to happen. You know why? Because historically, by the way, here's a really fun fact for everyone that is not talked about in the mainstream news very often. After every single pandemic in history, you know what comes after it? Civil unrest.
Yeah.
This is literally the sign that the country is healing. That there are now the civil unrest after a pandemic. It's like the final note. It's like, remember I've talked about before, it's like there's usually 3 waves. First one's moderate spread, moderate death. Then second is like moderate or slightly higher but more deadly. And then the third wave is super pervasive but much lower in mortality. And we hit that. That was Omicron. And now we're at the kind of the fourth part where people are starting to go, we did all this wrong. Well, we didn't do this wrong. We were told to do it wrong by the government, and we're very upset. And what happens every time that civil unrest happens? A jackboot. Now, the last time this happened was, as you guys know, about 100 years ago.
Yeah.
And it was there was a lot more militarized people at that time. But this is literally a sign of things improving.
So, as a final note for this story, we have to protect democracy, protect free speech, and these protests will not go away. And again, shout out to the protesters in Canada, but also shout out to those protesters in New Zealand. That was one hell of a statement. Keep on fighting the good fight, folks. I approve. There you go.
I gotta say, just for me, I'm not sure, it's not, if I was an official and I saw that, wouldn't be the thing that convinced me. I'm not a big fan of that type of thing, but good for them.
I'd be convinced.
It doesn't matter what I think on this. The point is that they're standing up.
I would be convinced. All right, you made that was awesome. That was awesome right there. All right, I give it 4 Chicago stars out of 4. So there you go.